Hello folks, welcome to episode 20 of the GingerLion's modded Minecraft Let's Play. If you recall last episode, I got finished making some tree farms out here. I've still only got two of them, and I had decided that in between episodes I was going to put in the rest of them. And as you see, I made 19 planters. But in the process of doing so, I realized that I had to make a lot of small sub-assemblies, and when I got over here to making the harvester, I realized that I had to make 38 sets of shears along with this golden axe and all the rest of the pieces that I needed, and so I decided I was going to take a detour. Now that I have myself this wonderful ME crafting system terminal and this ME storage network, it's time for me to dive into another piece of the ME system, the crafting system. Now, the crafting system for ME works like this. First, you build yourself a large structure. Now, its sizes basically up to you, but how much space it stores inside is what matters. So let me just show you the parts in in NEI so that you can see what it is that I'm talking about. Applied energetics. So what you do is you make yourself, okay, there they are. You make assembler containment walls, which are built like this, and those produce an outside frame, shall we say, very much like the tanks that I built down below here. These steel tank walls are made out of these assembler containment walls. Now, the sides here are made of heat vents, which theoretically allow the heat out of that processor, though you don't have to, treat that as if it actually vents heat. Beyond that, the inside is made up of crafting CPUs and ME pattern providers. Now, how these work is this. Each ME pattern provider can store one entire page of patterns, each pattern being a single thing that it knows how to craft. And each CPU can produce one crafting recipe per tick. So 20 times a second, each processor can make something. But if you're making something particularly complicated that takes a lot of steps, it might take it a while. If you put in more processors, it's going to move faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to excavate a spot in the wall, and I'm going to plan to make myself a pretty large crafting device. These are expandable, so I'm not going to go absurd. If I want to later, I can always rip a wall out of it and install some more heat vents and some more containment walls, and then add more processors or more storage space as I need. So let me get started on making all these pieces. Let's start with the containment wall, because that'll allow you to see what I am making in terms of its shape. So again, I already have this crafting terminal. It's nice in that I can come in here and say, I want these. It'll allow me to make a stack of them without having to touch anything in inventory in there. So 64 is probably where I'm going to start. And let's see, what's that going to mean? Well, let's just make out a space. I'm actually going to do it basically right behind this, because it'll allow me to attach it to cables without any effort, and it'll be hidden and placed away from things. Now, theoretically, I could make this as small as... let's see. Couldn't make it this big, because there would only be one spot in the middle, and that would hold a CPU. But theoretically, I could make it that small, and that would give us one pattern storage and one CPU. That doesn't seem big enough to me. If I expand it upwards by one, we now have two CPUs and two pattern storage. Or I could swap out if I wanted. Expand it once more in this direction. And now I should have enough space inside for 4 and 4. Is that enough? I don't know. I think for the moment, I'm not going to make that enough. I'm going to expand it one more this way, just so that I'm sure that I have easy access to this, and so that I'm sure it's big enough for any jobs that I wish to give it in the future. There we go. There's the space where my assembler is going to go. So now I lay out on the ceiling this pattern. There you go. There's an outside wall, and then I continue it down at all four corners. This is part of why I left myself that gap. And then again at the bottom. There. Now, I have 28 extra of these, but that's fine. If I wish to expand the device later, that gives me space. Now, the edges need to be made of these heat vents. This is going to be ME cable and iron bars. And I don't think I have many of either of those items, but let me take a look and start heat vents. Nope, I have no iron bars, so let's go ahead and make some. Click here, iron bars. Let's make 6 sets of those. Now let me go count how many heat vents I'm going to need. 4, 8, and then each one of these sides is going to take 6, so that's going to be 24, 32, so that's half a stack. That should be not too bad. There's my heat vent. Now let's try making it. That's half. I ran out of iron bars, so let's make some more of those. And it looks like I'm going to need to make one more stack of those, so that should be enough. Nope, one more. See, this is why I'm making this device, so that I don't have to think about what the numbers are, or how many of these things that I need to make. Instead, I just ask the system for 20 of them, and it goes ahead and makes them. That's the real advantage to the completely automated system. There's 32. That should be enough. Let me toss my cobblestone and dirt in there that I don't need. And the planter. No reason to be carrying that around while I'm building a build for another mod. So, let's see. And that leaves me 6 for the front wall. I might as well fill those 2 in while I'm waiting. Now, I need pattern providers and CPUs. How many of each do I think I'm going to go half and half, so 6 and 6. Let's see what they're made of. I guarantee this is not going to be a cheap and easy build. So let's start with the pattern providers. Those are going to require ME advanced processors, storage cells, crafting tables, whole collection of items. So let's see. I need... Well, apparently I have some advanced processors. I don't have any crafting tables. I'm going to need 6, because I'm building 6 of those. So, that should be enough for 6 crafting tables. That gets that made. That was easy. And what's the other thing that's missing? Storage cells. The basic storage cell itself. So let's see. Storage cell. And I need 2 more gold processor assemblies for this. So let's make 2 more. That's easy enough. Now, that should get me all of the assemblies that I need. So let me, actually, did I make pattern providers? What's make as many as I can make. And I immediately ran out of the conversion matrices, which are also going to take processors. Good call that I waited on that. Let's see how many of those. I can't make any, so more of these basic processors. I'm going to craft these basic processors and go cook them up. Actually, why don't I just do that really quickly right here. Let's make 14. That seems like enough for the moment. There's 16 basic processors. Now, there's no specific furnace that's been put aside for me to make these, but I'm just going to go ahead and toss them in this furnace right here, even though that, unfortunately leaves a little bit of pulverized silver not being touched. That's fine. I'll just toss it in another furnace. That way it'll get me these 16 processors cooked up as quickly as possible. Now, I know that I'm going to need diamond processors, at least, well, let's see what I've got. I've got one ME pattern provider. I needed to make conversion matrices. How many advanced processors do I have? 13. That's quite a good number. And there's some of my processors, the ones that I made, being cooked up there. That's good. So let's go ahead and make some of these conversion matrices. So I need 10 more of these, which means, am I correct? Let me make sure. This is going to take 2 each. That means I need 10 of them. 10 of these. So what's my chance of getting... No, I have no Certus dust. Once again, this is why... Fluix dust. This is why I wish to make this. So now I have Certus dust. What am I missing? Quartz. Let's go pulverize a stack of nether quartz. Like I said last time, I now have a process running that's mining the nether, so I'm getting nether quartz at a reasonable rate, and it's necessary to this recipe, so there's absolutely no reason for me to hesitate in making it. It'll make my life a lot easier in the future. So, let's start with those 9, see if they're enough to get me at least through the making of my pattern providers. I can almost guarantee you when it comes to crafting processors, there's going to be a little more work to be done. Now let's take this and put it in here and get myself 18 Fluix dust, and maybe that will allow me to make... There's 9. I need 1 more, and it's out of, again, Fluix dust, but I left more over here. So 1 more trip back and forth. I'll come back and get the rest of that at some point, which will allow me to make more cabling or whatever other things that I need. Okay, push that back in there. I need this. I need 1 of them. Thought I'd just put more... Oh, I put more quartz in there, but not Fluix dust. So let's make all the Fluix dust that I could possibly need for the moment. Grab 1 more of these, toss those 10 in, and see if now I'm able to make... Nope. What did I run out of? I ran out of these storage cells, which were made from cooking those processors. So that will give me enough to finish the pattern providers. There we are. Not a cheap recipe to build, obviously, but it will allow me to begin crafting automatically instead of manually. Well worth it. Now, finally, into the crafting CPU. Those are going to take diamond processors, glowstone, Certus quartz. Let me see how much... I have 8 processors. I need 6. Absolutely perfect. Let's crafting CPUs. That's the 6 that I need. Now, when you put the last heat vent in, these become solid walls, and now you notice that I put in 6 pattern providers. There are 6 pages in the molecular assembly chamber of recipes that I can put in. Now, how do I put in recipes? Well, that does take a couple more blocks. So, come over here and make what I need. First of all, I'm going to need an ME pattern encoder, which is going to take another conversion matrix and another crafting table. I know that I don't have those right now, but let's go ahead and just make myself a crafting table. Sometimes I forget that these don't work exactly like a vanilla crafting table does. They're much more useful, but when you're used to a thing operating in a specific way, it's a little strange when it doesn't. There. And I knew that I was going to need another conversion matrix. Let's toss that in. Now, the ME pattern encoder does not need to be attached to the ME network. It just needs to exist and be available. I'm going to put it right up against this because that's where I use it the most often, but it doesn't actually need to be. You could put it way over there and it would work just fine. What it does is you need to put in a blank pattern, which, let's see if I can spot it. Is that it? No, that's the encoded pattern. When it stores some useful information, there's the blank pattern. There's its recipe. I should have everything that I need to make plenty of those. So let's clear this and ask for these blank patterns and see if I can get a full stack of them. Yep, there we go. There's a stack. Now, what can I do with this? Well, remember right at the beginning what I said is that I was trying to make from Mind Factory Reloaded. I was preparing to make myself some harvesters, but the harvesters required a whole bunch of shears. Well, if I shift-click here and encode this, I now have a pattern that tells this system how to make shears. If I went over here and typed shears and took the 27 I already made out, you'll notice it says craft. All I would have to do is tell it to craft them, and it will. Means that all I have to do, if I want one, is click on it, tell it how many, and wait a couple of seconds, and it'll automatically make them. So, there are other things that I needed in the process of making this harvester. I needed golden axes. So a golden axe is shaped like this. Let's encode that. There's plastic sheets. Plastic sheets are made like that. Let's encode that. Factory machine blocks are made like so. Let's encode those. And finally, here's the actual harvester itself. Now I have all of the pieces. Now I have all of the pieces that I need to encoded in here so that I can toss them all in here, come over here, and I want a harvester. There are none in here, but I want 19. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to tell it that I want 19 of these. Begin. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Done. There are 19 harvesters. That's how many I wanted. Here are my 19 planters. Let's go ahead and grab fertilizers. Well, I haven't taught it the recipe for these yet, so let's go over here. I'm not sure if I have enough leather. I'm only going to need to teach it the glass bottle and the fertilizer itself because it has most of the rest of the components. So, here we go. Here is a harvester. Nope. A fertilizer. It needs glass bottles. There's the recipe for glass bottles. Thank you. And fertilizers themselves. There's the recipe for fertilizer. Toss them in the CPU. Come back over here. Tell it I want fertilizers. Craft me 19, please. Begin. There are 19 of them. As simple as that. Now, not all things can be made this way immediately. For example, if I needed to make Fluix dust is made of some pulverized items. I don't have a way of automatically pulverizing yet. But if I take a pulverizer and I attach one of these things to it, remember the ME interface that we made? The ME interface has space in it for those patterns. And so what you do is you attach it to the pulverizer. You tell the pulverizer to output in the direction of the interface. But like you can for all of these machines, you can change which direction they input and output from. That's one of the beautiful things about the thermal expansion mod. And then you put a recipe in here that says 1 Certus quartz, nether quartz equals 1 nether quartz dust. And then when the system realizes it needs nether quartz dust, it sends some to that machine and hands it back to you. Thus, we have a whole bunch of crafting options and choices that we can go through completely automatically. Now, there. So, let me just take a moment off camera and decide what my next step is, and I'll be right back. Okay, folks, so I'm outside working on the tree farm, and I've had a couple of you ask me how I work on things. Well, I want to show you. So, now, I've already laid these two out, and I've already started to set these up. What I know is this. I need to get data, in other words, the cable that's going to deliver, to collect my items, to this chest. So that means I need to cut down to what I call the data layer, which is why I laid these out in layers. So that will allow this layer, where I'm standing, to get to the bottom side of this chest. Now, I know that the fluid layer is 2 down below this, and I know that I need to run that to here. So that's cut out. And I know I need to run power over here. So those are cut out. And I know I also need to run it to here. That's cut out. So now I am going through each one of these holes and making them all identical. Even knowing that I'm going to have to fill in a lot of this stuff in the future, that's just fine by me. I would prefer to have a clear area to work to get everything done consistently and the same. Now, in these places where there's already a hole down here, because I've already done construction down here, that makes it a lot easier. But, nonetheless, I'm going to do the same thing regardless of whether I'm at an easy place or a harder one like here. I'm going to cut everything down right out to that chest from this layer. I'm going to cut everything down right out to this power conduit for here, because that's going to be power for my harvester. For here, because that's going to be power for my fertilizer. To here, this is going to be power to my planter, and then one layer below that, here, because that's going to be the sludge output for my harvester. So there we go. There is a generic hole. I'm going to make another one here, and here, and here, and here, and I'm going to cut all of these down before I move on to my next stage of build, because I've already got a proof of concept done, and I've got a verification of the proof of concept done. So I built this as a proof of concept to prove that it all worked. I built this as a verification of proof of concept to make sure that if I duplicated it, it continued to work, and it does. And so now I'm going to make all of these identical. So you probably don't need to see all that on camera. I just wanted you to see how this whole process works. I'll be back once I've got all of this cut and laid out. Okay, folks, I'm back. I've cut all of these holes down till they're all basically the same shape. And now, what is it the next thing that I do? Well, the next thing that I'm going to do on this build, and I generally do this in a lot of cases, I'm going to work from what I consider to be the most basic or the most simple up. In this particular case, that's connecting fluid duct to where the harvester is going to be. That gets all of my fluid duct placed, and I don't have to carry around more fluid duct in my inventory. If I don't have enough, I know perfectly well that I can go make some because I can predict that I'm going to use it. It allows me to separate my building process out into stages. First stage was, preparation of the site. The second stage is going to be, piping, shall we say, plumbing. The next phase is going to be the next up in this case, which is energy. And I'm going to lay out all those cables, and then finally I'm going to come back with ME cables. So I just wanted to let you guys see what this process is. You'll notice this is the exact same pipe that's coming up here, that's coming up here. I'm just going to set one up for every single one of these other ones. So I'll be back once I have that done, and you can see as I start on the next stage. Okay, folks, you catch me just as I'm finishing making up some more redstone energy conduits because I'm going to need more than I had to do what I needed to do. So what I did is I set up myself my magma crucible and my fluid transposer with a couple of hoppers on top just so that I could feed a lot in. In the process, I ended up needing a little bit more of the electrum that's easiest made in an induction smelter. So I went ahead and did that. Oh, look, there's a light issue over here. Let me just make sure everything in my base. Yep, good, all is well. So I'm going to head upstairs and catch a nap. And I know that I'll still have to deal with enemies because I was up late into the night. But there we are. There's the redstone energy conduits that I'm going to need for the next phase of my adventure. First, let me go hunt down anything that might potentially be a problem. Like, say, that guy, or these guys, or... Ooh. My apologies, folks. It looks like that the process of doing a little hunting that you just saw me doing crashed the game. So, let's try that again. Let's see who's outside for me to hunt. There's that same guy that I was fighting when the world crashed. So let's see what happens when I fight him this time. Well, he dies, and he gave me some mana beans. That's pretty nice of him. Okay, now back to my previous hunting. Spiders. Now, maybe you'll note that my sword and my pickaxe, I haven't put energy on them like I did last time. That's because I feel like I'm at a point in the game where I can afford to repair manual tools as opposed to charging them, and they last much, much longer if they are repaired and not charged. At least at this level they do. Charging admittedly is much cheaper, and I'm using up an expensive resource for effectively for my own pleasure, but in the end, what is it all there for except for me to use it and enjoy it as I will? So, anyway, now, I need to install power. Now, I have already decided how I'm going to run power to my harvester, and how I'm going to run power to my fertilizer, and how I'm running power up here. You'll note it's 2 levels lower. That's because the planter sits right here in the middle of this space, right underneath this square of terrain, whereas the other things sit 2 blocks higher up above the terrain to interact with the plants. So, now at each location, I am effectively going to do the same thing. Effectively mass producing locations where I can easily install the tools as they come. So there you go. I'm going to set that up in all of these locations, and once again I'll be back once I've done that. Okay, folks, so let me finish off this Enderman, who seems to have decided that daylight is an acceptable time for him to hang out. And I disagree. Come on. He seems to be running away from me. I think he's a little scared. For good reason. So, anyway. I hear a noise that makes me think there's another meteor coming. Anyway, so, I've finished the power layout, as you can see. All of those locations are now powered. The last thing that I need to do is run ME cable to all of these locations. Now, this is the most expensive, per se, of the items that I'm running. Therefore, I'm running it as high up as possible so that I run as little of it. It's not a huge savings per se, but it's certainly some, and any savings at this point will do. Now, I'm laying, the only places that I need these items to go are right laid out just like so. This is going to come in from the network. This is going to pull items out of the chest. This is going to deliver fertilizer to the fertilizer. And the empty spot right there is where I'm going to put the export bus for whatever plant it is that I'm going to be working on in this given planter. So in each location, I'm going to pull cable in from a previous location, leave the center empty, and continue on down through. And I'm going to connect on that same level to one underneath this chest and one underneath that fertilizer. So I'm going to do that on each one of these, and then I'll come back and show you putting in the import and export buses. Okay, folks, so now I've finished all of the basic wiring. Now for the high precision wiring, actually. Yeah, so let me just show you really quick what this is all going to look like. First, I need an import bus on the bottom of this chest, and I'd like to set that to stack of items mode. I'm going to need an export bus set here, and whacked with a wrench until it points the correct direction, which is up. And in this particular case, I would like it also set to stack, but only active with redstone signal. And finally, we need a precision export bus right here, facing upwards, just like that one is. Oh, it looks like I got myself stuck. It's going to be set to stack mode, and it's going to be set with one of the items from this chest. So I'm going to get myself some sleep so that no more monsters come and make explosions like that one over there. And then I'm going to set up the rest of them, and I'll come back when I show you putting in my equipment. Okay, folks, so here's me configuring these. So, stack of items. This case is going to be white. This needs to be stack on signal fertilizer. This one needs to be stack. Down to the next one. This is going to be, no, I think I'm going to hold silverwood for a little bit different location. This is going to be green stain saplings, stack. This is going to be fertilizer, stack on signal, and this is going to be pull stack out. This whole row is configured. I'm going to do the rest of them, and I'll come back as I set up the machines. Okay, folks, so now I'm back and ready to start putting down machines. I've set each one of these theoretically for the right configuration. All I've got to do is shift click with a planter on it, and it's obviously got power. It's obviously connected to the network. Now, I hope it'll fill with plants in the next moments, but let me go ahead and put the rest of them down so that I can troubleshoot the ones that are a problem after I've given them enough time to work. So, let's see. There's my harvester, my planters going down relatively simply and easily. One in the middle of each. I'm just going to do this on camera so that you guys can see real quick what the process is of organizing such a thing. why I went through all the work to lay these things out so carefully was frankly so that I could do just this, not have to worry about, not have to configure, not have to slide down underneath any of these things to figure out what's going on with it. Instead, I just want to be able to put it down, come in here and see, look, black stained saplings, perfect. Red stained saplings, etc. This one doesn't seem to be configured correctly. Let's see if I can figure out why. Maybe I don't have any slimy saplings. It's possible that I don't have any or don't have many. Let me go check real quick. Thought I had enough saplings for every single one of these to work. I should have 7 slimy saplings. Let me take one more of them and just make sure that I have all of my item types correct and my configuration correct on that one. It's possible when you do a complicated many-sided build like this one that any given thing won't turn out just exactly the way you wanted it to. For example, it is possible, while this is all setting up correctly, it's possible that this doesn't know what to do with a slimy sapling, and so it won't accept it from the network. Move stacks, always active, slimy sapling. Let me just move single items, because we only have singles anyway. See if that does it. Well, I'm going to manually put it in. It's possible that that won't work. There's another one over here that I'm slightly concerned about. No, the silverwood saplings all ended up there. Good. Okay. So, next thing that I'll want to do is put down my fertilizers. Those are going to be pretty easy, though I'm going to have to reconfigure each one of them with a wrench to get them pointed in the correct direction. And then I'm going to want to check each one of them to make sure that it doesn't have any fertilizer in it until I tell it to have fertilizer in it, which I'll do with these obsidian pressure plates I have in my hand right now. So, let me put all these machines down. Let me actually just show you where a planter is going to go just so that a harvester is going to go so that you've seen it. Goes right in that space right there. I whack each one of these with a wrench until they're all facing the correct direction. There you go. That's what each one of them is going to look like. I'm going to get some sleep, lay down the rest of my machines, and I'll be back to you guys in just a little bit. Okay, folks, so now I've got all of these laid out, and now it's time to put the dirt in place. For any of these where it's working correctly, which it may not be for that first one that I did, it should almost immediately, just as this one's doing, begin planting trees. And that's proof that this farm is connected and working, full of saplings. We will have to see over time when the harvester works like it's supposed to. If we come out here and find that there are tree pieces, like for example, over here I have a greatwood log one, and it turns out that not all of the greatwood's log pieces get broken. I'm going to have to come out here and manually trim that up. I've actually right now got enough greatwood trees that I think that I'm probably going to turn that one off and consider what else I should put in that location. Perhaps it'll be time to grow some potatoes automatically or whatnot. But yeah, the rest of these I expect to populate, fill, plant, and harvest just like I expect them to. Some of them won't. Some of the mod trees may not work with the Mine Factory Reloaded process, but obviously all the stained saplings do. So, there we are. There's an example of setting up an extremely flexible multi-farm out here using Mine Factory Reloaded. I doubt I will ever need to expand any of these because I strongly doubt that they will ever, that I will need more of any of these trees than these devices can produce for me. So, I expect that this will completely overflow my storage system, and that in the next episode I will probably be talking with you about the efforts that I have to go through in order to set myself up with more deep storage units so that I can continue to take in the trees and saplings that this process produces. So, I hope you enjoyed the episode, folks, and I'll see you next time.